In my teens, I realized or discovered my mom was actually running an escort service. And then in my 20s, I kind of followed in her footsteps. I just wanted to get out and make money. And I ended up becoming an exotic dancer, which is a fancy term for a stripper. And that one thing led to another, and I started doing that when I was 18, and I did that from 18 to 32.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
Long career. People said, "You're crazy. You're 32. Just go get a straight job and clean up and do." And I thought, no, I'm going to college. I want a degree. And so I did. It was hard. When I was 32 and I went to the detox center and made that decision to go to college, they gave me a drug and alcohol counselor, a man, and we ended up getting drunk together and going to bed together. And I'm like, this isn't helping.
I can't. I know.
Dennis never tried to change me. He's never given me, I think you should do this. Why aren't you doing that? Because I was difficult. Right? I think two things. Don't allow yourself to be a victim. Don't give your power away because something happened to you in the past. I think that's the biggest thing, because I hear that a lot.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back again to our podcast. Another fantastic episode of our podcast, Life as We See It, podcast with A&A. And on today's episode, I have another amazing guest. Her name is Becca Jacobson. Welcome, Becca.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, Zuki.
Yeah, nice to have you. So a quick intro on Becca. Becca is a sobriety and transformation coach, and she's an acclaimed author. She's the acclaimed author of an international best-selling memoir called Prostitute to Professor. Becca has navigated her journey from being a recovered addict and a former prostitute to becoming an esteemed English professor. She's also a podcaster. The name of her podcast is Sober Living Snippets. And so welcome, Becca. Thanks so much for joining us once again.
Yeah. My pleasure. I'm thrilled to be here.
So Becca, same here. Thank you so much. I love your background. I love everything going on there. So peaceful and serene.
My backyard.
Yeah. So I was really... Your backyard, amazing. I wish I had a backyard like that. So your story is so intriguing. Like when I read your little bio, I was like, oh wow, from prostitute to English professor. That is, professor. That's a high, top achieving kind of profession. So really interested to hear about that. So let's go quickly into it. So Becca, can you start with telling us more about yourself, your childhood, growing up? What was home life for you back as a child?
Yeah, I was raised by my mother. So my parents divorced when I was very young, and so my mom raised us, and that was she struggled with addiction and undiagnosed, or more likely untreated, bipolar disorder, which they didn't even call it that then. They called it manic depressive. Anyway, it's bipolar. So it was a little bit rocky. She did her best to raise us, me and my brother and my sister. Yeah. In my teens, I realized or discovered or found out, I guess, I don't know how to, but that my mom was actually running an escort service. And then in my 20s, I ended up working for her. There's a lot of story in between there, but I kind of followed in her footsteps. And we, it's in my book, parts of that. Obviously that's in my book, yeah. But yeah, being raised with her was difficult. She in the 70s, women would go to their doctors and say, "This is so hard. I'm a single mom and I'm depressed," and they would just give you, "Here, take some Valium. Here, have some," and so she ended up addicted to pills very early, and that progressed and got worse and worse. And she died an addict in her early 60s. So my sister also ended up an addict, and me, but my sister died in 2018. She overdosed on fentanyl. And
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so it's just a lot of coming from that background and then deciding I want a different life in my 30s and deciding to fight for it. And that's the mess. I guess my main message. It really doesn't, how long I didn't get out of that environment till my 30s. I took my first college course when I was 32.
Whoa.
So it's not, Yeah.
It's not too late.
No, that's what I tell. And
Okay.
my students that I teach, sometimes they'll come to my office and say, Professor, I don't know, I'm getting so old and I don't know what I want to be. They're like 22 or something. And I just,
Mm-hmm.
it's, everything's relative, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
it's never too late.
It's never. Wow. So Becca, growing up, where was your dad in all of this? Was he in the picture?
He came and went. He'd pop in here and there, but he didn't support us. He didn't give her child support. He would just all of a sudden show up and always bringing gifts. And we thought he was this big hero. And, poor mom had to do the discipline and the raising and the hard stuff, right? And he'd show up bearing gifts and hang around for a day or two and leave. And then later on, I, connected with him more, but I just couldn't connect with him. I wasn't, yeah. When they divorced, he said she was leaving, and they were splitting up,
So
and he said to her, "You can do what you want with the girls, but I want my son." So he's,
wow.
women.
So he
He had
took
no
the
use for.
brother.
Yeah, yeah. She wouldn't let him. She said, "No, you're not taking my son." But he didn't think there was much use for women. We had one use.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true. And that mindset as well in the 70s was just the thinking back then. Women weren't, as valuable as men. Oh wow. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Wow. So what about your brother? Was he also caught up in that same pattern of addiction or?
No, our dad looked after him. He went and lived with him when he got into his early teens. He made sure that he got an education. Well, he was a heavy duty mechanic, so he got a trade. He made sure he got an apprenticeship in a trade so that he would have a future. And
I see.
yeah, so he just had a very different life and a very different message about life.
Mm,
Being
wow.
male, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so do you mind sharing a bit more about what led you into prostitution? Was it just by reason of the fact that your mom was ran an
Not
escort business or?
Yeah. Well, not really. When I'd graduated high school and I just wanted to get out and get away and make money. And I ended up becoming an exotic dancer, which is a fancy term for a stripper. And that one thing led to another. And I started doing that when I was 18. I graduated high school when I was 17. By the time I was 18, I was stripping in Vancouver. And then, ended up working the sex trade all around, right? And I did that from 18 to 32.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
Long career.
Long career, 14 years, right? Oh my God.
Yeah. And at the end, it's like nobody, there's other 18-year-old. They're like, we don't want you anymore. You're too old, right? Right, 32, you're just way too old. Go away kind of thing. So I was having a hard time getting booked into clubs and I'd used so much drugs and so much alcohol. I was a mess. So when I was in my 11th trip to the detox center, trying to get clean, I decided I'm going to go to college. And people said, "You're crazy. You're 32. Just go get a straight job and clean up and do." And I thought, no, I'm going to college. I want a degree. And so I did. It was hard.
Yeah. So what was that moment? Like, what made you decide? Did it just come to you, or what, did an event happen that opened up your eyes to know that, wow, I want more for myself?
Zuki, I always wanted more for myself. Through all those years, those 14 years, like through things like weekends at the Hells Angels Clubhouse, the only woman for 4 days with all the bikers, like just all of that stuff, all of the drugs, all of the street life. Through all of it, I knew that I was supposed to do something better. I didn't know how to get out. Now and then, in a moment of, I don't know, get really loaded and something would slip out of my mouth, like, I want to go to college, or I would say, I want to be somebody, and everybody would just laugh. Like, that's hilarious. There was no support, and for some reason, I don't know why, I knew I have to do something else. And I can. I knew I was smart enough to go to college, and I wanted a degree. I wanted a bachelor's degree. I ended up going to grad school and going that, but that was my dream, to have a bachelor's degree in English. I don't know why. Most English, it's hard to get a job, right? But yeah, and I remember laying there in the detox center when I was 32, and I was so sick from drinking and drugs, and I just got madder and madder. And I'd been there so many times, the nurses knew me. They're like, "Oh, you're back again." And I just came out, and I was sick, and I went down. I just went to the university, and I enrolled. And I applied for a student loan, and I got it, and I just started from the beginning, and I just took it one moment at a time. It's important to note, I didn't get clean then. I didn't stop drinking then. I drank right through. I stopped drugs, but I drank right through college, and for the first 15 years of my career as a professor. So I only got sober in 2018 when I was 52.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. By the way, you look good for your age.
I know. I'm like, oh
I
my
wouldn't
God.
have guessed that. You look good. And so okay, so let's talk about the drugs, the addiction, because I feel like most people who struggle with substance abuse, I feel like the drug is usually one of the very strong ones. Like, it's hard or difficult for them to get off it. But for you,
Yeah.
it was easier to get off drugs than it was for alcohol. How
It
did that
wasn't
happen?
It wasn't that it was actually easier to quit. It was that I knew I couldn't go to college, go to university or whatever, and do the drugs I was doing. Because I was doing hard drugs. I wasn't just smoking dope or smoking pot, right? And I knew I can't do this. I won't get what I want. But I knew I could if I was careful. Like, instead of just quitting alcohol, because I didn't know how to not do something. I'd always done something my whole life. And so I just, through determination, I quit. It wasn't like overnight. It took me about a year. I kept relapsing, and then I'd quit, and then I'd start again, then I quit. But eventually it just all boiled down just to alcohol. And that haunted me for another 20 years. But in between drinking, I managed to get a few degrees and a job. High functioning alcoholic, they call us, right? We can still,
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, just what you were going to say, right? Just binge drinking in between, but you're just barely surviving. It's a very miserable existence.
I imagine. Yeah, that high function. I think the first time I heard about high functioning individuals, like maybe individuals that suffer with anxiety, but you wouldn't know because they still function in a normal work environment and you feel they are normal, but no, they actually are like termed as high functioning anxiety, person or
That's
something.
right.
So with alcohol, it's the same thing. You can actually drink and still function right in a normal work environment. Wow.
Yeah, and people don't know about it. It's a horrible way to live, though, because you're always worried and stressed, and is something gonna happen? And then in 2018 it did happen. When my sister died, she actually intentionally overdosed. She was 55, and when that happened, I don't know, I just fell apart. And that was where I used her death as a moment in time where I realized I have to get sober. Right? This is crazy. I'm 52 years old. I'm still drinking. I want more. And I went to a residential treatment center, and I was there for 2 months, and that started my sobriety journey. So thank God.
Wow,
Right?
congratulations. Yeah, 2018. That's like 5 years, 6 years. How many years now? Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah, 6.
Wow.
6.
Congratulations on that. Yeah. I
Thank
feel like
you.
those type of substances, it's easy to get trapped or get sucked into it, but it's so difficult to come out, to recover, like to separate yourself from it. It's honestly, I'm a Christian, and sometimes I feel like there's some spiritual element to those type of addictive substances and things like that. But wow. So how was your mom and your sister like growing up when you moved into the prostitution and all of that? Were they also involved
Yeah.
in your life, or were they living different life?
Yeah, I ended up working for her for a while, on and off. I'd leave, I'd come back, but she was running an escort service, which is just prostitution. It's like
She was
not
still
on the
running
street.
it.
Yeah, but she wasn't just running it, she
Mm-hmm.
was working. She was also a prostitute. And so I worked with her a few times. So did my sister, my stepdad. She remarried, and my stepdad would drive us around to the hotels. We would get calls and he would drive us to the hotels. And then when she was about 55, I guess, she retired from that and
Okay.
then just became an organic gardener.
What a switch. What a switch. Oh wow. I like that.
Yeah. And then she got breast cancer and at 62 and
Oh.
died. So
Oh, so sorry to hear that. So sorry. Wow. Interesting. Yeah. So, what does it mean to accept you can change, everything that you've been through, including yourself? Like everything you've been through was for a reason. Because I know some people go through hard things in life and they find it difficult to forgive themselves.
mhm,
So, how have you been able to?
mhm.
Because I look at you and I can't even relates, the story you're telling me who I'm seeing now because I mean it's so
Yeah.
difficult to, but how were you able to come to that? Okay, I went through this, but this shouldn't define me. This is not who I am. And you were able to use it for something more positive.
A couple of things there you said. I only started okay, let me back up. It was writing that book which
Mm-hmm.
started the healing process for me. So I got sober in 2018, but I was very emotionally I just I was still hiding. That's the thing. That's really the message that I have is that if we hide in shame, we cannot heal. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to run out and publish a memoir and tell the whole world. No, I didn't even plan to do that. I started writing my story for myself. I had no intention of publishing it. I just started writing it. And as I was writing those stories, this story, that story, I started feeling different. I started feeling different about my relationship with my mother. I started forgiving her. But more importantly, at the end of it, I was forgiving myself because I just didn't like myself very much at all. And then, one thing led to another, and I ended up publishing the book, and it did well. But that was the transformational moment for me, was when because I spent all these years, 15 years as a professor, hiding that I drank, that I used to be a prostitute, like everything from my
Mm-hmm.
past was this big secret. And so I was always suffering from massive imposter syndrome. Always. I didn't fit in. I didn't make friends with my colleagues. For 15 whole years, I'd go to campus, do my job, and then get out of there and feel like, oh, now I can breathe. It was very bizarre. I felt like if
Mm-hmm.
that, I guess imposter syndrome, but always felt like, what if somebody found out? Or what if.
Yeah.
And then at the end, about a couple of years ago, or last year, when I published the
Mm-hmm.
book, I decided to tell my colleagues that I'd published the book.
Mm-hmm.
And the title of the book, they're all like, you did what? That's not your book. That's my book. Wait a minute. Because the title of the book was all they had to read, was the title of the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, boom. And I thought, what's going to happen when I publish the book and they find out
Mm-hmm.
at the college or see it or whatever? And they did. And nobody really cared. I mean, they did. They're all like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then they just sort of
Mm-hmm.
go back on with their life. I think what we do, we put way too much. We think people are going to spend a lot of time thinking about us and what we've done. And they don't.
That's
They're
true.
worried about themselves. They're thinking about their own lives, right? If we only knew how little people think about us. Did you see? I mean, they might talk about it for a minute. Oh, did you see this or did you hear that? And then it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And, so. And meanwhile, I had to carry it around like this big, horrible secret, packing it
Mm-hmm.
on my back all those years. And it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you were a prostitute.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Right?
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah.
I think having the courage, as I say, I'm not recommending people publish if they have something in their past, but you don't have to have something like that big
Mm-hmm.
but most of us carry something around with us that
True.
that keeps us separate from other humans, that makes us feel less than or in some way unworthy, or that imposter
Yes.
syndrome, right? It doesn't have to be that big of a thing, prostitute to professor. And sharing it, writing it, maybe with either with maybe a counselor or a coach. I mean, that's why we have counselors, right? But it's really important to heal through by sharing, I think. I think that's really what I would
That's
say
true.
with somebody.
Yeah. No, I really agree with you. I feel like there's power in, stories, in personal stories, because honestly, it's easier to relate to someone who has been through struggles, who has been through hard times, than it is to relate with someone who has it all, peaches and cream, all roses, hasn't been through any challenges, right? Because life can be hard, life can be tough, right? And, it just shows, your level of resiliency, your level of like determination, because I've been in touch with some people who have been addicted to different substances, and they try, you see them trying to come out, like to let go, but they're unable to. They go through rehab several times, but they are still stuck, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm sure if they hear your story, for instance, like I'm sure it will kind of inspire, do something within them that makes them know that, oh wow, I can actually dream, I can aim higher. With you becoming from where you're coming from to being a professor, which is like the highest level of, I don't know what profession is higher than, that, being a professor. So I think it's remarkable. Thank you so much for sharing it in your book, so that people can learn and grow from it. So, Becca, what would you say would be someone who is struggling with abuse, addiction, and maybe from a family who grew up in a family like yours? What is one way for them to know that there is hope? There's something different, right? Because I don't know
Yeah.
if did your extended family have, like, did people go to college from your extended
No,
family? Or nobody?
nobody.
So how did
Nobody.
you develop that desire to say, you know what, I want better, I want college? How did that
I don't
happen?
know. I don't know. Everybody kept saying, I can't believe, why are
Wow.
you wasting your time going to college, accumulating all this student loan when you could just go and get a job, work at the grocery store or something. I don't know where it came from, Zuki, but I knew I had to do it. Nobody in my family is educated. It's all, we're working class folks. But what would I say to somebody? I wanted to say, a few minutes ago, you said, when you talk to somebody who's been through a lot and come through the other side, it's very inspiring, and that's true compared to someone who has like peaches and cream. But you know what I'm discovering? Very few people have peaches and cream. We all have struggles, right? It just depends
That's
on the
true.
level, right? I
That's
can't
true.
find somebody to talk to who doesn't go, oh yeah, here's what happened to me. Oh, here's what happened to me. We all of us, it just depends on, right? And how we come through the other end will define the life we have. And I think for me, the biggest message and the biggest difference between me and my sister was she took a victim stance. What can you expect from me? Look at my past. Look at my childhood. Look what mom did. And it was always blaming, always blaming, always blaming. Whereas I just went, you know what? She did best she could. It sucked, but oh well, I'm going to go do this life, right? And we were just very different people. And if we take a victim stance, blame anybody or anything, or expect anybody or anything to give us fulfillment, we're not going to get it, right? So I talk to a lot of women. I coach women that struggle with alcohol, and the biggest thing that can hold you back is that victim stance. That's my opinion.
Wow. Yeah, that's actually true. Because as you're speaking, different scenarios are coming to my mind. That's actually true. Just having that victim stance that, oh, it was things, these were done to me. I can't help myself. My family put me in this situation. And it just keeps you stuck.
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually a good way of looking at it. Wow, interesting. So what would you say have been like the things, like for someone of faith? I'm a person of faith, and a lot of times my faith gives me, courage and strength to keep pushing, right? So I imagine it's been hard. I mean, you're saying it sounds so easy, right? Like, how what was the journey from, at 32 going into college, maybe being the oldest person in the classroom, right?
Yeah.
And then getting like, and then also being high functioning, having alcohol. How were you able to navigate through school life? How were you? And I'm sure that mentality you have of not playing victim also, I'm sure, would have helped you a lot, right? So what were the additional things that helped you navigate and, go through all of
Yeah,
that season?
I'm a person of faith now too. I wasn't then. And don't forget, I never
Okay.
stopped drinking. So it was
Mm-hmm.
actually a very difficult life. I don't know why I didn't give up. I still am like that. I persevere. When I make a decision, I'm going to do something. I've done, no matter how hard it is, I just keep going. I'm like, I started this,
Me
I'm going to
too.
finish it. I just,
Yeah.
right? It's like everything, the book, the podcast, like it's all been really hard, right? But I just like, I'll
Yeah.
just keep going. When you talk about, because having faith and a prayer life and a belief in
Yes.
something, in God, it has made a
Mm-hmm.
huge difference for me. And so in 2018, I ended up in the logical place was at AA. I ended up in 12-step program. In fact,
Mm.
I ended up in they put me there. Every time I would go to the detox center to get help, they'd send me over to a 12-step program. And I go, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be here. I hate this. I'm not doing this. No, right? And it was
Mm-hmm.
really all the help there was. We have other options now, but that's really all there was go to the meeting in the basement of the church full of smoke and alcoholics, right? And I didn't want to go. But it really was a very helpful to me. It's been a very helpful to learn how to pray, how to have faith. Believing in God has been really helpful for me. And yeah, I don't know where I get this desire to never give up, but it's just there.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to do something with my life. I think we
Yeah.
should all do something with our life. We've been given a life. We might as
With
well
our
do something
lives.
with it, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, no, I really agree with that. And I think it's maybe again, it's just, and you gave me vocabulary for it actually, just that not playing the victim, regardless of what family you're from, just keep going. I think that's what makes you also feel like I have to contribute to the world. I have to do something, more.
Yeah.
It's very good. Okay, so yeah, so why did you decide to write your book? And if you can take us a bit, deeper, I know you just touched on it a bit, what we expect to get from your book, and why did you decide to write this book? I mean, it must have been terrifying to expose all of these secrets no one knew about.
I didn't decide to write the book. I decided to journal my stories for myself.
Mm,
And I thought, because I had these, my book is 13 stories. It's not a life story. There's a whole bunch of stuff missing. I don't go chronological. I tell 13 stories, and they're not chronological. I think it starts when I'm, I don't know, 24, then I go to 6, then I go to 40, then I go to, right? It's 13 stories. And I didn't plan that. What happened was I decided I wanted to, instead of avoiding difficult memories, I thought, I'm going to write that memory. Because I have these, I didn't know I had 13 memories. It turned out it was 13 memories. But I kept having these, remember when that happened? And it would hurt, and I'd get angry, and then I'd hate my mom, and then I didn't want to talk about it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to write that story. What happened that day? Right? Because there was sexual abuse, and there was rape in my past, and there's violence, and so I wrote those, and I didn't know it would be 13. Turns out, after I was done, I looked, I went, oh, I have 13 stories here. And after I wrote them, I felt different about all of them, about myself, about the people from my past, about my people who hurt me, about my mom. I just felt different about all of it. And it somehow, I guess I was ready, that I used the writing process to get through
process.
somewhere else. Yeah. And I didn't have anyone coaching me through it. I just needed to write it down. It just felt good as I was doing it. So I kept going. Then at the end, I went, this is kind of an interesting story. I should publish it. I'm like, what? And it took me a while, but I decided to publish it. And then I don't know. The rest is kind of crazy. My husband's like, you're doing what? Because I'm married.
Okay.
Like, I'm gonna publish this. He's like, what? And what are you calling it? What's the title? I'm like, well, that's the title. But, writing your story or sharing your story in some way, like difficult memories I found will haunt and haunt and haunt and haunt until we turn around and face them. And the 13 stories were ones I never talked about, I never shared, I didn't want to think about. I tried to drink them away, I tried to drug them away, and they just kept haunting me. And when I wrote them, they lost all their power. one story at a time. That moment in time lost its power. And at the end of I realized that was it. It just felt different.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I've heard a lot about that, like journaling. It really, so you started doing that exercise as journaling and then
Yeah.
it
I
became
was
the
just
book.
journaling.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna dig a bit into your relationship, your love story, because in all of this you still found love, which is amazing. I
Yeah.
love a good, ending. I love that. But I wanted to ask about your mom, like your dad as well. How were you? Because I believe you must have forgiven them, right? For you to be able
Yeah.
to move on. So how were you able to find forgiveness for them? And also, did you have any kind of therapy? Did therapy play any role in your journey to recovery?
I saw I had when I was 32 and I went to the detox center and made that decision to go to college, they gave me a drug and alcohol counselor, a man, and we ended up getting drunk together and going to bed together. And I'm like, this isn't helping.
I can't. I can't.
I know. I could have got him fired. I didn't. I just
Aw.
walked away.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy works in a detox center, and anyway, and he was a lot older than me, like 15 years older than me. But anyway, so it kind of turned me off counselors, to be honest.
Yeah. That was so funny.
Yeah, I know. But that didn't answer your question. No, you know what? I've had a few counselors over the years, but I didn't have any therapy of any kind. Just I would say the closest I have is my relationship with God and my meditation practice and my faith. So I have a meditation practice. I meditate every day for the purpose of connecting with God. So just being still, being quiet, and trying to feel my connection to the universe or God or whatever you want, and feeling loved and looked after and connected in that way, which is not very traditional. It's not a religious path. It's just. But no, to answer your question, I did not have therapy.
Okay.
But writing my book was very therapeutic.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, journaling. Like I've heard that a lot. There are people who have become authors not because they wanted to, but because they were journaling and they realized, wow, I actually have a lot and I can publish it. And they've gotten all of that issue, that trauma out, like should I exercise? Wow.
I
Fantastic.
included a
So how about
story.
forgiveness?
Yeah, so in the book, I included a story about my mom's childhood. Now, she was born in South Africa, and when her parents were really bad alcoholics. And when she was 7, the state took her away from her parents and put her in an orphanage. And she was raised in an orphanage. If you can imagine what that would have been like, right? Very Dickensian, as in Charles Dickens, and the orphans, and right. She had this weird, horrible, difficult childhood. When I was writing that, and I knew it, I was able to just go, how is she supposed to know how to raise children? Then she meets this handsome Canadian man who gets her pregnant on the first date. And I'm just like, this woman had nobody to raise her. She had no freaking idea. Ended up taking Valium because she was stressed. I just went, how could she raise? She didn't know what the hell she was doing. And so seeing it from other people's perspective, instead of, my mom did this, which was what my sister said right till her dying day. Mom screwed me up. Mom screwed me up. I'm like, well, give away all your power then, right? Go ahead, and be a victim. And I wrote what I knew about her story and was able to just reframe by looking at it through her eyes, and all the pain just melted away. It's like, she's just a woman with 3 kids and no man helping her. He just left her.
Yeah.
So,
wow,
yeah.
That is so awesome. I mean, that is you just threw in a really, really good method of forgiveness, helping you forgive those who have hurt you. Because if you're able to understand their backstory, why did this person hurt me? It makes it easier to hold space for them and to extend forgiveness. Wow. Wow.
Exactly.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And that's true. I mean, imagine having that type of childhood. Like, what was she like? No one showed her love. So how can she show love to her own children or raise them right?
Yeah, exactly. It was harder for me to forgive my father. It's iffy if I have. I probably should be working on that a little. He died as well, but maybe I got to work on that.
I didn't write his.
I didn't write his story. He barely comes into the book. He just got my mom pregnant, basically. But so there you go. You just poked a hole in my whole.
Oh,
My,
soaps. I'm sorry.
I better do a little work around my dad there. Yeah. Well, at least I called him my father. I was calling him something a lot less.
Oh,
Nice.
really? Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Man, no, but it's commend you. You're like a very strong, because for you to come out with all of this and have the mentality you have, it's something else, And forgiveness is something we keep working on. It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when I feel like I've forgiven someone and I realize, I don't think I have. And then I just go back, pray, God help me forgive, and it's just that cycle. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Awesome. So let me talk a bit about love life. So when did you meet your husband? Was it during the
I met my husband right when
after?
I was 33. I was in my first year of college.
Okay.
And
College. Okay, college. Okay.
University, yeah, actually university. But so I started when I was 32. I met him when I was 33, and I didn't want anything to do with him. Like, leave me alone. I've had enough of men. Go away, right? I was just like, no more men. And so he just remained my friend. We were friends, and he was just always there because I was struggling. I struggled through. I was drinking, and I just want to be if you need anything, call me. I mean, he just loved me. He told me later that the day he saw me, he knew, oh, there she is. That's the one. That's my girl. And I'm like, what? I didn't, sweet. And, long story short, he was just always there. And I was difficult because I was drinking. I was not.
And he wasn't. He didn't drink.
No, he doesn't have a drinking. No. I mean, he drank like a normal person. No, not to excess or no problem, right?
Yeah.
And I would drink too. I was sick, so sick, but anyway, he just stuck by me. He just always there. And when I graduated from grad school and got my job as a college professor, that was when his kids, because he was a single father raising up 2 boys. They graduated high school that year, and the oldest one did. He said, look, my kids are gone. You're done grad school. I said, okay, yeah. So we got together in 2005, but we met in 1995. So and we got married. Yeah, we got married in 2005, and it's been, he just, what he taught me? This is really important, what Dennis taught me. Dennis taught me that you actually can change someone by loving them. Dennis never tried to change me. He's never given me, I think you should do this. Why aren't you doing that? Because I was difficult. I was, right? And there were things I should have been doing and wasn't. And I mean, I didn't cheat on him, not that kind of thing, but just too much alcohol and too much. And he just kept loving me and loving me and loving me and loving me until a point where when someone loves you like that and just wants, his one thing in life was wanting me to be happy. And I think the guy's got the patience of a saint. I don't know how he did it, to be honest. Like, not many people could do it. I couldn't have done what he did. And he just, when someone does that, your reaction, unless you're a real, I don't know, your natural reaction is to want them to be happy back. Right? So when he's trying to make me, I'm like, well, then I should do that for him. And then we end up, my goal in life is to make Dennis happy. Dennis's goal in life is to make me happy. And then and it's like, well, let me do it. No, I'll do it. It's okay. How can I help me? We have this my friends are like, you have the weirdest marriage. You never argue. You're always just like, it's actually kind of annoying, because we're just like, yeah. So gift from God. Dennis was a gift from God. Yeah. And I needed it badly. So.
Yeah. Wow. Because it's not often you hear stories like yours, like, the people still end up in happy marriages, right? But just having that is like icing on the cake. Wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
It really is.
God bless you, Dennis.
Yeah. God bless Dennis.
Wow. So you've been married for 19 years now?
Yeah.
So almost 20. Wow. That's a long time. Wow. Awesome. Wow. So what do you want people to take from your book, or even from this discussion, this conversation? Because I feel like the story would resonate a lot with people. Yours was prostitution. For someone else, it could be, binge eating. It could be, I don't know, but
Oh, there's so
it's
much. I
really
don't.
just the way you've been able to turn your life around. My God.
I think two things. Don't allow yourself to be a victim. Don't give your power away because something happened to you in the past. I think that's the biggest thing. Because I hear that a lot. It's like, here's what happened to me. I'm like, got it. Now move on. I'm not saying we don't need to heal. We need to go through some sort of healing process, counseling, whatever you want, process you want to use, whatever works for you. Do it and then move on. Right? It's like I believe too many people use the past, things that have happened to them, whether it's events or whatever, abuse, or there's horrible things happen to people. I understand that. I just don't allow it to take your power away. That's, I guess, my biggest message. And anyone who does, you're not going to be able to move on because you don't have the power to move on because you gave it to somebody else. My mom did this, therefore I'm like this. Guess who's got all the power? My dead mother. She's not even alive, and I give her all the power. No, right? So I think that, and also the second thing, Zuki, is you have a life, live it. Don't settle. Don't settle for dream. If you have a dream, then dream it and do it, right? That's what I think. I think we should, yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Wow, that's a solid message, honestly. I feel like yeah. So what about someone, because I know people are and I don't imagine anyone being through something as worse as you went through. Someone can say, oh, I've been through maybe abuse, sexual abuse, molestation, physical abuse, emotional abuse, which, I agree, it might not be, especially for emotional abuse, it might be harder for those type of people to pull themselves out because they've been beat down mentally.
Yeah.
Let me say maybe mental abuse, right? So how can those people, I mean, again, it still goes back to what you're saying, really. I don't think it's anything different they should do. It still goes back to don't let it define you. Yes, it happened, but you can move on from it. You might need additional help.
Get help.
Prayer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But just get going and don't stay there.
Yeah. Find out. That's another thing. People, well, I tried this, it didn't work. Well, then try something else. Whether it's counseling, therapy, whether it's journaling, whether it's prayer, whatever. There is a way, but get the help you need instead of using it to keep you stuck, right?
Yes,
I don't,
yes.
I don't know. It's like, I don't like it when we go comparing. Well, you've been through that. That's probably worse than that person. It depends on the individual, right? I mean, some people go through not very much and they don't handle it well. That's okay. It's not like this was worse than that, or we're going to have a comparison. We get to competition. Who had to go through the worst thing? Whatever you need, take it, do it, grab on and get your life. Take your life back from whatever's holding you back. And instead of, especially people who are still using or still drinking, it's like, I always say, I get to say this because I didn't sober up till I was 52, right? So I'm not sitting here going, look, if you're still drinking and you stop. I kept going and going and going, and I guess if I have any regrets, I try not to hold on to regrets, but if I have any, that's it. Why did I have to wait till I was 52? Why couldn't I get sober when I was 42 or 32? Why? Right? And so I wasted a lot of time. A lot of my life was wasted in unnecessary suffering. And I guess that's it. Don't wait.
Don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't wait. Wow. Awesome. Fantastic. Okay, we're about rounding off now. So what would you say, what will your students say about you? How would they describe you? And have they read your book? Do they know about your story or
yeah, some of them did. Shortly after I published it, I retired. I took early retirement. I'm now retired. And I actually ran into one of my students yesterday. And they don't, it's funny. They're like, oh, that's really cool. How cool is that? That's awesome. And, I think, yeah, they don't, yeah. They just thought it was
especially
really cool.
this generation, Gen Z, they don't, they're like, okay, yeah, whatever, they're just fantastic. I love them a lot.
Yeah, they're amazing.
So, yeah, awesome. Wow. So what are you working on now, and how can people get in touch with you, with your book? Where can they find it? Where can they buy it? How can they connect with you?
Right now, I'm putting most of my attention on my little podcast.
Yes.
It's Sober Living Snippets. And what I'm doing there is I don't have interviews. I don't interview people. I do a 10 to 15 minutes every weekday. And I just go in and I give you a snippet on sobriety or on sober living, on sobriety. The purpose, and I publish every morning at 5 a.m. Pacific. I publish it.
Every morning.
And I just come in and I go, here's your snippet. Here's how you can stay sober today. Onward and upward. Love you to death. And I come back tomorrow and I do it again. I do it every day. And it's growing. People, and I'm getting really good feedback. People are enjoying it. So it's I hesitate to even call it a podcast because I'm not interviewing people. It's very different. It's just your daily snippet, sober snippet. Come in, get your snippet, and off you go. So that is what I'm really focusing on right now. And also my clients, I have clients that I'm helping to get and stay sober, and really, really feel such a privilege to be doing that. So you can look me up at beccajacobson.com. I'm also, you'll find me on Instagram at Radical Transformation, and Facebook the same, Radical Transformation. And and the book is Prostitute to Professor, A Guide to Radical Transformation. That's me.
And where can they find the book?
Oh, sorry, Amazon.
Amazon, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
actually,
awesome.
it's on like 30 different platforms, but most people just go to Amazon.
Amazon. Okay, I'll definitely be picking a copy because I want to, learn more. I want to read more about your story. Wow, that is awesome. Yeah, and I'll put all your details in the description box of the YouTube video and the show notes of the podcast. So if you can send me, I know I have some, but if you can send me all your socials, so I can attach them to this. Yeah, awesome. So what's your final word? What's something you want people out there to know in closing?
Live your life. It's precious, right? Every moment that we let alcohol or drugs or regret or shame or any of those things get in the way, we're wasting precious, precious life. It's a gift. And yeah, that's my message.
Okay, awesome. Well said. Well said. Thank you so much,
Thank
Becca.
you.
It was such a delight to have you. I enjoyed this conversation. I learned so much from it, and I'm sure our viewers did as well. So thank you so much for joining us today, for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, comment, drop us a review. We really appreciate your comments, and keep coming back for more amazing, episodes. Please connect with Becca. Go buy the book, learn more, and live your life. Like she said, leave. Don't live in regrets or in the past, just leave and be. Okay, thank you so much, and see you in our next episode. Bye. Bye.